Okay, I think we're live. Okay, we are live, but we're not yet recording anything. Let me fix that as well. Okay, Nikita, are you ready?
I need to find the floppy disk link.
Okay. All these excuses.
How's everybody's Friday going?
Almost over.
It's trending in the
over?
right direction.
What's it called? I just got the new AirPods 2, or AirPods Pro 2. I had them delivered today.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah. They actually sound really nice. And it's really interesting how the case is like magnetic and it actually attaches to the watch charger.
Yep.
Cool.
So-
I actually lost one of my AirPods yesterday when I went out for a bike run. I got back home and I was like, wait, I only have a pod in one ear.
That's so unfortunate.
It was.
Okay, Nikita. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Across the whole route.
I think we're ready.
Zane, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Finish your horror story.
The thing, the Find My Phone feature had like supposed to be able to find your AirPods too if they're missing. It did not work. It kept claiming the second AirPod was right there in the case.
See, that's the worst thing about like the old AirPods Pros is that they didn't come with a U1 chip, so doing Find My with them is actually like very, very inaccurate.
That's why.
Yep. Okay, so Nikita, you will start and let me play the music. 3, 2, 1. You can go.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Non-Intuitive Bits. So today, as usual, with me are Slava,
Hello.
Zane,
Hey there.
and Eli.
Hey,
Yeah, and today we start talking with the topics that Slava sort of hinted during the previous episode. Do you want to kick it over?
Guilty. Yes, hinted. We just wait. You want me to vocalize the whole topic or just start?
Just say what you hinted about.
Yeah, I do hint about the fact that we are going to release a huge thing, PyTorch Foundation. It's actually here. It's finally out. The Mark Zuckerberg himself did announce it on the Facebook, and to be honest, everyone in this podcast right now are people behind this huge release. This is the team that did that release. But I don't want to spoil the fun. Nikki, it's your show, so you do the dive deep.
So as Slava said, like PyTorch as of last week, or more, a little bit more than that, became part of the Linux Foundation or joined Linux Foundation among many other open source projects. That means that it will be supported by open source community, even if whatever happens to like its current support structure, which is great, which also ensures that people will be hopefully more open about contributing to it and using.
But like, tell me why Facebook needed apart from incentivize people? Like, are there any other reasons whatsoever? Silent.
That's a good question. I guess it's about community, not about one company in particular, right? As people want to avoid switching to the new framework every couple of years, it is important that there is something that is considered, if not like an official standard, but like a common practice. So if you have a framework which is in the foundation and can be influenced by the community, it is great, right? People can do their things and not worried about, like 2 months later, the project become closed source and all your contributions are gone.
Eli, is this how Kubernetes killed Docker?
no, that was a long time before. I think Kubernetes having Google support is what kind of killed Docker Swarm in particular.
I want just quick. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, moving to the Linux Foundation, I feel like is like a big step towards maintaining neutrality between companies. A lot of times you see with foundations that get started, one company tries to kind of use their weight against a different company, and having a mediator like the Linux Foundation, I feel like is a good solution to a lot of different open source woes that you might experience. Like maybe one company wants a particular feature and we can use the Linux Foundation as a mediator to kind of like facilitate that discussion.
Yeah, I in my humble opinion, this what Eli just mentioned, one of the root causes, one of the main reasons per se. If you look back in the past, you can see that many companies were hesitate to invest a lot in either TensorFlow or PyTorch, and one of the reasons was because they were both gatekept. Like, let's look in the past when AWS suddenly announced they are supporting MXNet. No one ever used it, no one ever heard about it, no one still cares about it, and yet they still pick MXNet and not TensorFlow and PyTorch. And you probably will be like, why? Obviously, if you're not buying the reasoning they officially stated, but like think for a moment why they might have done this. One of the obvious reasons, again, because of the gatekeeper mechanics. Technically, if you look on the TensorFlow, it's still gatekept by Google. And what I mean by this is that if you're proposing any changes, you have to go through the Google. It doesn't matter what they say, they are the ultimate holding the keys to say yay or nay for any changes that you're proposing, which have obvious disadvantage for any big enterprises. The same used to be with the PyTorch, it's no longer the case. If you go to the PyTorch repository in the GitHub, you actually will see that now there are people who have the superpowers to merge directly changes. So this means that we at the Meta no longer can say yay or nay for every changes, that at least not for everyone. There are some people who now have superpowers to do that. That at least my 2 cents why I think this move was needed.
Yeah, and I have to say that there is a big misunderstanding between open source projects and open source development, right? Because many companies release their software stack or parts of thereof as an open source because it makes it easier for others to study, to improve, to propose fixes, and just to use. But they do not really involve an open source development process. That is, if I want to contribute change, no one will ever answer to that, right? I guess, I don't know if you can have like a really community contributions to Android, for example. For a while, that was not the case. You can have your own private fork and do whatever you want, but I don't know, like if Google necessarily will accept my changes if there's something other than a trivial fixes. And even in that case, I guess it can be challenging.
Yeah, that makes sense. And by the way, I just realized I found my way of describing difference between Linux Foundation and Apache Foundation. You go to Linux Foundation to do truly open source processes. You go to Apache Foundation to die. Like that's where a company go to die. I don't recall anyone in Apache Foundation who like survived and prospered.
Oh no, the Foundation shade.
The Foundation rivalry has begun.
Yes. Anyone else?
I love lots of Apache projects. Let's be fair, right? They're not all bad.
Yes.
I have Apache.
Yes.
Please stay. Please use Uber. Not all of our drivers are harassing people. Yes, so that's the same for Apache Foundation. Not all projects there are that. Yeah, true. That's a true statement, but there is something weird about this statement, nevertheless.
Which reminds me of a really strange story that I read another day, that I think Charter, which one of the big like ISP providers in US, was held liable for really high damages because its technician killed the customer. Speaking of harassing the drivers, like Charter technician killed the customer. Isn't that something? Like what kind of a customer you need to be to drive technician mad to? I don't know. But this is a grim story. Or was it Spectrum? Maybe not. Yes, Spectrum.
Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. Okay. I'm not going ever ask Xfinity folks come to my house to fix a router.
Yes, that's what I like when they're working outside, not in the house.
Are you seeing the number on this judgment? It's
Yes.
$1.147 billion.
And the murder weapon was the company knife.
What?
Yeah.
That is absolutely insane.
And apparently they have a Charter Spectrum knife.
Well, at least it was easy finding whoever did it.
Right.
It looks like this is a great convey to our next topic, which is about security, albeit luckily not the physical one, but the information security. So as you guys probably heard, Uber was hacked, so to speak, and not hacked at the same time.
Wait, what do you mean not hacked at the same time?
So it was social, the attacker socially engineered his way into the corporate network, right? He didn't find an exploit to get access into the network. But once he did that, that's what amazed me. He found a PowerShell script that could be used to gain access to the rest of the systems. Again, there's a little bit of controversy, but PowerShell scripts with your private keys, there's something weird about that.
I think it's like one of those things when you're making this automation that a lot of teams, secrets management is an unsexy part of writing automation. And I think most people will generally tend to agree that it is not a very fun part of doing automation, but it's incredibly important. Products exist out there like Vault, GitHub Action Secrets are a prime example of this, that try to make it so that your secrets are kept in a safe vault, and in order to be able to do it, you have to have at least two factors of authentication in order to be able to do it. But I mean, this is actually like a brilliant exploit from this this person. Like,
yeah. So
doing the social
Uber
engineering
have
thing.
two-factor authentication, right? So after he gained an access to the password, he needed the Uber employee to press the button on two-fact, and employee did that. He said, "Oh well, okay. I don't know how you need to overwork a person when he doesn't realize that this repeated two-factor notification doesn't come from something that he is doing, but someone is trying to hack him."
Yeah, that's a really funny part, because the hacker just repeatedly sent the credentials to the real site until the guy was like, "All right, you know what? Let me just push it."
I guess there's no way to silence those notifications.
Right. He's like, maybe he thought "Oh, hey, this is why my build is broken."
Maybe he was just using it to order food from Uber, right? And he accidentally clicked the button accept, because pop-up shows up. And if you type in a message to somebody, you I continue typing.
Yeah, I mean, it could have even been legitimately trying to log in at the same time, except the hacker's pop-up came up first, and thought, "Oh, that one was mine."
But I'm so curious about okay, most security applications like multi-factor auth are not very usable. They're probably using something like Duo or something where it's a one-click to get in, like you're saying before. Where does it stop between being very secure versus being actually usable? The very secure version of it is not usable at all, but the very usable version of it is not very secure at all. Is there a happy middle ground where it's not a single button press, but maybe you have to fill out a CAPTCHA to make it even more annoying?
GitHub, speaking of two-factor, which is actually work, isn't GitHub doing that? When you want to log in, it pops up the number, two numbers that you need to enter on your phone, right? So it's not a single button press. You need to actually okay, compare what you see on your screen versus what you need to enter into another device.
I think Apple also does that as well. Whenever you try to log into a new Apple device, it comes up with a two-factor auth and it gives you the code on one and then expects you to put it in another. I actually think that's a really great system.
Yeah, and they make you use more digits.
Yeah,
Not just 2 digits.
I think 2 is enough, right? Compared to single button press, which is 1 bit, going from 1 bit to 8 bits, it's a great progress.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
I mean, especially once you factor in, add in some extra penalties for retrying.
But did he know his password? Did the hacker know?
Yes. So he created a fake website that looked like one of the Uber whatever, and sent him a link like through WhatsApp saying, click here, you need to like reply to some important message or whatever. And the guy did and entered his credentials.
Classic.
Classic phishing, but the additive extra of doing the button click over and over again, I guess, is like one of those things that security teams need to look at. So if you're on a security team, look at it.
The word phishing, sometimes with companies, it's surprising how often legitimate company emails go out that look just like phishing emails. And after a while, you start thinking, I guess this email must be a legitimate one. It's just another one of those, which I complained about this the last 5 times, and it was always real. I guess this one's real too.
Yeah, but still, I don't know. I have a habit of looking at the URL. Like looking each time before I actually type credentials to whatever. Actually, no, I just realized this habit is because I'm using 1Password that actually enters the password for me in almost everything. So that thing does check URL matching, otherwise it will never populate it. So it does it for me. But on the other hand, I just realized recently I'm using 1Password and I have both factors, password and authentication up in the 1Password, which kind of goes against the whole thing that you have 2 factors, because if 1Password is compromised, everything is there, which a little bit worrisome for me, but I don't know.
I mean, the 2-fact probably only works from your phone itself, right?
No, it's like it's 2-factor is effectively key that if you have it, you can start generating from starting sheet and special code. You can start generating these one-time passwords, and 1Password syncs it everywhere. So it's not just
okay.
yes, unless you're speaking about the short messages. 2-fact, but I usually using just authenticator that generates this one-time password instead of messaging, because for the messaging, it's what if my phone is stolen? Like what then? Especially it used to be a bigger problem when the SIM card was a physical SIM card, because if your phone is stolen, they can just literally take out your SIM card, put it in another device, and almost nothing you can do about this. Now with eSIM that in Apple pushing everywhere, it's slightly simpler, slightly more secure, but I still would prefer to have one-time password that are generated versus short messages that are coming in.
I mean, but the community is moving towards like not having passwords at all, right? Like that's what they want eventually.
So like, what are they replacing them with?
Well, like Apple has like login with Apple. We had like the Facebook social login where you have like auth through Facebook. I mean, there's a lot of different auth portals and gateways that don't necessarily rely on.
That's an old initiative, right? What is it called? OpenID.
Yeah,
right. So it's not moving away from password necessarily. It's just saying, we want fewer password providers. Because I don't know like why I need my PG&E credentials, right? Or there are lots of other services which say, like you need to register an account. And speaking of, that's the second part of the same discussion about security. So there is a phishing attack to Circle CI. Circle CI is one of the popular CI providers that some people are using, right? And surprisingly, lots of its customers found this email saying that, we updated our terms of services, please log in here to see. And click on the button, social engineering again, and type login and passwords. And if your Circle CI account is associated with your GitHub account, you would say, type your GitHub password. And I don't know who you need to be not to figure out that, like GitHub should say, do you want to authenticate to this app rather than just type in a password? But yes, people was trying to steal GitHub credentials this way. And some successful. So they even posted on all the workflow runs. So whenever you run something on Circle CI, it shows you a big banner saying, we never ask you for your password. And we didn't update our term of services recently. So don't click on this link.
I feel like GitHub's especially sensitive if people gain access to it, because GitHub secrets are obviously a thing. I don't know if people can really extract them from there, but like being able to push to a repository as people become more reliant on GitHub services like GitHub Container Registry, GitHub Packages, NPM is owned by GitHub. They're like a central auth location for a lot of different services. Like having access to your GitHub token or like the GitHub API using your token is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, the banner on CircleCI, it reminds me of back in college once. The university sent out an email, like this is like some phishing stuff going around. The university sent out an email to everyone saying, hey, look, if you get an email, don't send out your username and password. A couple hours later, we got a reply back from it saying, "Guy, I said don't send out your username and password. So many of you have been replying to me with your username and password."
Yes, it's hilarious. It's like remind me this good old website that asks you to put your credit card data so they can verify your credit card data being compromised somewhere or not.
That's a good idea.
Yep. By the way, I do believe that we will see more and more just security problem on the time horizon. Not just with these type of attack, more and more. Especially now with somewhat crisis on the market, there will be more and more people that has tons of the time and that has somewhat relevant information, computer science education, and they need to do something. Some of them will decide to do exactly this, trying to find the holes in our security systems. That's just life. And
It is not a recommendation, by the way.
wait, there is white hackers like that can explore everything and actually earn money for that. But yes, it's not that.
Well, other type of hackers can also earn money for that, but yes, hopefully not for long.
Yes, that's true. I wanted to say something else about this particular angle, but I forgot. Anyway,
I remember about emails. So Zane's story about university saying an email, I almost instinctively want to click reply all and say, please subscribe. Like if somebody forgets this old, I think it's a legend from Microsoft, but I've seen it happening a few times. When someone says an email to all at, and then someone else says, please put me to BCC, and you send it by mistake or whatever, and it can bring down the mail server. Because sending an email to all is dangerous.
Yeah, the Microsoft one was like extra legendary just because it crashed the entire server. It got so bad.
By the way, oh Jesus! I just recalled what I wanted to say and I forgot it again. That's so horrible. My head stack has always so. Oh man,
I think we should talk more about emails. Slava might remember.
No, it wasn't related to it. There was a chain process. Oh yes, email. Yes, okay. Yeah, I recall. In my life, I think I got 4 times email saying that you have leaked AWS credentials. So that's not that I did that, but GitHub, I think, and AWS actually have a special service that if you pre-bake your credentials, accidentally push it. And I work with many folks in my life who actually did not know how to correctly work with secrets, but then when they needed to use service account or special role, the first instinct would be to pre-bake it and push it. That would go to the GitHub, and eventually I would get this email of happiness. But the funniest part, 1 out of these 4 accidents where I actually mentioned to the person, look, you just have leaked credentials, you need to act immediately. By the way, AWS is doing a really good job. They will immediately apply special policies for that roles that would limit that role to do bad things immediately when they see a leak. But nevertheless, so the first thing that person did, submitted the commit to the GitHub, removing that credentials instead of revoking. Yes.
And I know this. Well, not that I know this person, but this is not a unique story, right? Like I think Eli and myself can probably recall this story happening in our professional career not that long ago. Not with us, but with somebody we both know. And this is a classic Microsoft story, right? Many years back when GitHub just became popular, I think Microsoft committed some Azure credentials to one of the public repos.
Credentials, Microsoft themselves?
Yes, Microsoft themselves committed some Azure credentials to the public, like Microsoft-owned repo.
Okay.
That's immediately reminded me about this repository. It's a hilarious repository with the list of the common passwords. So for hacker to do, and someone sent me the pull request to remove his password so the hackers cannot use it with him. This yeah, someone removing dolphins from this dictionary of popular passwords. That was
Imagine if there's a comment it's like, that's my GitHub password. Don't do that.
yes.
I just remember being so amazed. Like in school, I did a network security or a Linux security class, and like how easy it was to use like Jack the Ripper to do basically like password ripping. And then you could use like sed replacement rules where you can do like common replacements. Like some people might think replacing e's with 3's is actually useful, but it's not. Like it's you can iterate through so many things so quickly, and like now that we have like maybe GPU acceleration or different types of acceleration, the level of password cracking is just ridiculous.
Yep. Anyway, Nikita, do you want to move forward, or Zane? Sorry, you wanted to say something.
I was just saying, like, I have one repository in which I suspect I might have embedded passwords at one point on GitHub, and like I'm not certain if I have, but and I'm too lazy to like check the repository's history to see if it's actually there and in there. So I just have left that repository as private. I'm like, I'm just not going to make this repository public. That's the easy way out to make sure those credentials are safe.
Man, how many times I've seen when someone converting private repository to public just to immediately get this happiness letter because somewhere in the history, in the past, there was credentials pre-baked there. Yes. Because, one day you delete it and like 2 years later, you're forgetting that they were there and you clicking this bit, like make it public. Oh, yes.
Exactly.
Nikita, what did you share?
Oh, that's speaking of password security, right? I think there was a very common thread that, your password needs to be complex. It needs to contain at least one letter, like one punctuation sign and whatever. And I love XKCD, like if somebody doesn't notice that already. And this comic exactly points out that the problem with this approach, right? When you try to create a short password, you can brute force it. When you create a long password of dictionary word, and then you can lead code some of them if you choose to, it's much harder to. Thank you. Yes, I know that. That's a great one.
Wait. What is that?
I just linked the GitHub project so you can automatically get a password like this. I've actually used this in the past before to generate passwords for myself.
Oh yeah, that's actually the way that's the way that my password always looks like. But I actually, out of curiosity, make it at least one character caps and at least one replacement, because it feels like you still can create a graph of the words and start building somewhat memorizable sentences. I don't know, it just feels like
probably
that.
I always use punctuation, so I'll use punctuation in the middle and then also use punctuation at the end, basically almost making it like, maybe I shouldn't disclose this.
I'm about to say that, guys, now it's important time if you want to know how to hack all of these passwords, don't forget to put a punctuation in the middle.
Oh man, I'm just exposing myself right now. I gotta stop.
It's okay. I just use the first 4 words from the Harry Potter books.
Good idea, yes.
But no
one ever knows that.
But the worst thing that actually makes the password as simple as possible is a requirement to change them once per several months. Like I do remember it was a rule in the old companies and everyone was trying to find something that was so simple to remember because no one going to rememorize horrible passwords each second month.
Blah 1, blah 2.
Yeah.
Yes, that was always my pattern, right? I come up with a password, then when they say I need to change it, I add 1 at the end and then increment it.
Mm-hmm. The worst thing was when people would put their passwords on sticky notes and just put it on their monitors. And so if you really wanted to hack a company, all you had to do was just walk around the office for a little bit and you're eventually going to find somebody's password.
At Microsoft, at Microsoft, I was talking to like one of the security engineers over there once, and he was saying that like it was basically just like an open secret within the company's security group that Microsoft's account, like there were attackers within the Microsoft network, and that they could not be kicked out because they just didn't know enough about them to kick them out. You maybe like they'd have multiple accounts. You kicked off, like you'd find a few accounts, kick them out. There would still be other accounts left over. And then if you went to the black market, you could just buy accounts to these Microsoft, to the Microsoft internal network. So they were forced to defend themselves with defense in depth.
Actually, it used to be a really interesting use case. Back in the day, you used to be able to buy bundles of hacked Minecraft accounts. So if you needed like a lot of Minecraft accounts, you could just go on a forum, pay like $50, and now you have like 100 accounts that you can just like spam things with.
Yeah, in cyberpunk world that we all live in nowadays, this is bundles of social security numbers. If you wanted to rest.
In one of the companies that I worked at, speaking of social engineering, monetary like incentive and security, like in one of the companies that I worked with, there was a big problem that people leaving their computers did not log the desktop, right? And what floor managers start doing is if they notice an account which is not logged, they open a mail client and send an email to all saying, "I'm going to buy you donuts next Friday," and person who said that was obliged to buy donuts for everyone. And that was small, right? $50. But then people learned to log their accounts. And also everyone was happy, right? Because you're getting free donuts.
That actually was an official internal service in Google where you can go, a special rainbow something, I don't remember. And if you go on that service, you click the button, the account will be locked and the owner have to go to security team. And this effectively was specifically done so you know this short link. So if you see unlock computer, you immediately go on that short link, click a button, and kumbaya.
Donuts, right? So like it's not as good.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I like
yes.
the donuts one much better. And in fact, at one of the places I worked at, people started doing the same thing. They would send out emails from the person's account if they left the computer unlocked. And then a few weeks later, we got an email from HR saying, "Hey, you're not allowed to access anybody else's computer if they leave it unlocked."
I wonder to whom and what they have sent.
The wrong person got pranked.
Anyway, with all that fun, we can move to the last topic, which is also fun. So surprisingly, in September of 2022, no, that's the previous thing. So this one is fun as well, but like, yes. So in September of 2022, one of the last makers of the floppy disks and seller of the floppy disks, if somebody doesn't remember what it is, so the safe icon that you see in many like chats, it's not just a random icon. That was a media to store data and transfer data between computers, right? So the guy decided to like shut down his business because fewer and fewer people actually need floppy disks.
A bunch of 20-year-olds just had their minds blown. What, the save icon was real?
Wait. You folks explaining floppy disk wrong. The way you should explain it, this is a device that starts nuclear rockets. That's it's still used, and this is special hardware for nuclear rockets. And
so when you used to buy video games, right? The video games come on floppy disks, right? So someone needs an actual demonstration of how they look like. So I have two varieties there. So this is the one that can be used to launch nuclear rockets. Well, I don't think you can do any much with this one. It's a video game, but yes, that's the type of things. And that's the thing that this guy was still selling. This one was made in 92, I guess. But yes.
How resilient are floppy disks? Like, do they stand the test of time? Because I know that like some magnetic disks don't really stand up well over like 10, 15 years.
So surprisingly, it's other way around. So optical disks does not stand the test of time. And the problem is very simple. Well, they do and they don't. So I tried to read one of those. I have a 3-inch floppy drive, and I can still do it, right? But optical disks, which are much cheaper to manufacture than those ones, right? Because this one requires like a metal thing and a spring and like 3-inch floppies is a very like mechanically complex thing, right? You have this fantastic thing called a write protector, right? You have a spindle down there. You have like this little window to the actual disk, which is spring-loaded, which still works, surprisingly. The spring is, but like CDs are very cheap to manufacture. But
Man, I just realized that like these floppy disk capacity is so small, you can't even fit a photo onto it anymore.
True.
anyone had a digital camera that write photos to floppy disks? I had a really early Sony digital something. You plug in a floppy disk into the back of a camera, and you can imagine the resolution, right? So you think you can fit quite a lot. I think one floppy disk was roughly the size of the film. So it was like 36 frames on a floppy disk, but the resolution was 320 by 240 or something.
So in this story, this guy was the last manufacturer of floppy disks and is just stopped?
Sort of. He wasn't really a manufacturer, so the story talks about how the guy started getting into this business. So he was just duplicating floppies. If someone doesn't know, if you want to go and copy software to 10 friends, it's a painful process, right? You need to especially if you have a regular PC like IBM PS2, you need to plug in the floppy disk. It copies like a quarter of the floppy disk into memory. Memory was 640 kilobytes, disk was like 1 megabyte. You eject the disk, plug another disk. It will save 360 kilobytes on another disk. Then it was very slow. So people build like a special rigs that can copy like one floppy disk to 4 another floppy disks. And they made a business out of it, right? You go and you say, I want this floppy disks copied, and you pay a reasonable fee. And this was a very lucrative business.
Isn't that a great bit of perspective? Like people I saw on Reddit earlier today were complaining about the iPhone 14 Pro only having like so much speed. Now they can't transfer 8K video in under 30 minutes. And it's like, well, I mean, perspective, people used to pay money for people to copy multiple things on floppy disks from one thing to another.
4 megabytes around.
First, I want to mention before even I chime in with the comments, Nikita Saider just said, when I scroll it feels like someone watching me. Yes, it's very...
We are, right? There are 4 people on this call, so 4 eyes.
True.
Yeah, but what I actually wanted to say, out of curiosity, since we're speaking about this throughput of the video and photos, what we see already in the game industry, there is a deep learning engines that enchants detailed on your graphics, and this is specifically done so you can either render less frames, or you can stream a less quality video stream and then enchant it on the other side by actually adding details. I wonder if the same thing will be available on the photos videos, where you're not only enchanting colors, but you actually adding details, and they will be indistinguishable from the photo that's created with the higher resolution cameras.
So there is something called super resolution networks, and they do that a lot. And that was a big thing in 1080, right? So NVIDIA RTX 1080 have a special superscalar engine, which was essentially a very small convolution. Like you can program your and I think it is used in PS5s or something, right? So if you want to upscale games, it's very kind of expensive to render in 4K. But if you render in 1K and then have a very simple upscaler who just does that, that's the answer. So I think NVIDIA Revolution introduced this idea with 1080 or 1070.
It was DLSS. DLSS, I think.
Yes, DLSS, exactly that.
Yes. And AMD calls it, they just introduced it in the latest when they released PS5, and they call it super resolution or something like I don't remember.
So the network in general called super resolution, and the reason why I know about, as you probably can see, right, that was a floppy disk from an old video game. So there is a nice filter that can make your video game look like it was still made in 80s, but the graphic would be high resolution, right? So they take low resolution pixel art and turn it to high resolution pixel art, but still pixel art.
Well, they have those, right? They have physical devices that you can buy that are upscalers, where you can take retro gaming devices, put it through the upscaler, and then put it through a TV, and it should render in a higher resolution.
Yeah, but those upscalers are usually very primitive DSPs, which literally just multiply number of pixels, right? And again, the part of the fun of these upscalers is because old devices have an analog signal at a weird frame rates, like my 8-bit laptop, well, not laptop, PC is refresh rate is 23.7 frames per second, which none of the modern monitors can support. So like those are needed
Yeah.
to support that, but they don't do any like AI thing.
I quickly.
I think this is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
And you know,
Yeah, this is the thing.
you know, there is a fun part that there was another problem. You can okay about games, but you also can upframe if you're speaking about specifically frame per second. You can upframe old movies to like 60 frames per second, and this is where interesting things come to play. There are some really old movies that actually no one knows who owns the rights to them. Like especially old movies from USSR, where, you know, from the country that didn't have any information about the rights, like who have the rights. So the people who upscale them, they have a problem to upload them to anywhere like YouTube, because YouTube will ban them, because YouTube cannot verify if they have permission and rights to that. So they effectively uploaded to YouPorn, which was it's still a video hosting that doesn't bother with the rights permission, and there are actually a lot of upscaled movies on the YouPorn because it was the only place where they could publicly upload them after doing the experiment. But yeah, sorry for the segue, just recall that's amazing.
No, that is great. So next time I visit this fantastic website, I'm there for upscaled movies.
Oh, this is
sounds
the
like a
excuse.
feature
Right?
Honey, did you watching YouPorn? No, just Soviet films. Don't worry. This.
17 moments of the spring, right? Or what was that?
Yes. Sorry, Zane. Apologize. I got you.
I was just saying this sounds like YouTube could offer a service. Oh, you don't know who the rights are for this movie? Well, we'll just go ahead and upload it and then see who tries to sue us.
Actually, yes. This is a brilliant one. Yes.
So actually, I read a little. Oh, go ahead. Like,
I was gonna say, like, I don't think YouTube would necessarily care unless it affected their ad dollars. Like, I think the main reason why YouTube takes down a bunch of things is or I guess unsavory things is like ad dollars. They don't want to lose that revenue. I guess also getting sued is a part of that as well.
So they don't want to lose DMCA protection, right? So DMCA says that the hosting provider is not responsible for anything if they take down videos and make reasonable technical measures to do this thing. And speaking of Soviet Union, so the reason why all movies made before 1975 are not covered under international copyright, because Soviet Union does not recognize international copyright until 75. So they joined this in 1975. So all movies before, in like former Soviet Union, there's probably some copyright holder, but outside there is none.
Wow.
Yes, that and yeah, that's the root cause of actually for bringing these things down.
You know, like going back to like upscaling video games, like even with the Mario Kart one, with stuff like Stable Diffusion, you can kind of upscale images and turn them into like realistic looking images, except it takes a couple seconds for like the rendering to happen. So, but if that speeds up, you can actually take these old video games and completely change the style of what the stuff looks like. Like if you look up Stable Diffusion, Link Goes to Jurassic Park, you'll see like
Stable Diffusion, Jurassic Park. Sorry.
Stable Diffusion Jurassic Park. That might be enough to just see the Jurassic Park scene be replaced with Zelda characters over there. That's probably the one. Yeah,
man, I'm not logged in on, for obvious reason. I don't want accidentally to open Gmail or something, and I have to look on the ads. I even forgot that YouTube has ads. That doesn't look like.
No, this is not the right one.
Yeah, we'll have to watch more ads.
Yeah, I think it's called Link Goes to Jurassic Park.
Link and Zelda. Yeah. Yes.
Zelda one. So here's the classic Jurassic Park scene. And then like they just got 3D polygons all over, and like both people are replaced. Actually, you skip past the best part. The first few seconds, like when it really highlights it. So right as he gets up is when the whole world changes, and you kind of see the Stable Diffusion stuff gets taken over, or takes over.
Oh, that's fancy. That's fancy and cool.
And so like they turned this into like lower resolution pixelated stuff, but you could take old video games and do the opposite and completely change the style of the old games.
That's so interesting. I wonder how much computational power this kind of takes. Like maybe you could do this on the fly if it doesn't take too much.
Right now, if you have I think it's like well, it takes a strong GPU. You need like a pretty high powered GPU to do it quickly. And quickly still means like 1 second for an image.
I don't think this is a stable diffusion, because despite the name stable diffusion is very unstable for videos. It is very stable for images, but for videos it would generate a completely different styles for every like frame. So
and it generates different styles in many aspects. But it
is surprisingly consistent for stable diffusion. I imagine like the guy who did it had to do a lot of extra work to make it look as consistent as it does right now.
Yes. But speaking of, anyone seen Owl Kitty and Jurassic Park? That's a completely divert. But if you type Owl Kitty Jurassic Park,
I don't know how to type Owl Kitty.
Owl like
OWL?
Owl 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 Kitty Jurassic Park. Yeah.
All W.
Yes, that's the one.
Owl Kitty.
Like the bird owl.
Oh,
Yes.
see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's
The first one with the big cat.
yes.
Okay.
What is this?
So guy just green screens his cat and edits into any movies.
Oh, yeah. I saw pictures of the guy. Yes.
It's really funny with video.
Yes. So, if you're listening to us, go and tap Oxford
sound
Whiskey
of-
Lima
yeah.
Kitty.
This is really well made.
Yes. That's really good. Anyway.
Anyway, going back to floppy disks.
Floppy
Right.
disk.
Yeah, people listening to the podcast must be like so confused right now.
Yeah, what's going on? Yes.
Yeah, so going back to floppy disks. So this guy stops selling floppy disks, and there is on the other side of the globe. So this guy is in US. Japan finally decided that abolish obsolete digital formats. So a lot of government forms in Japan must still be filed in physical format. So if you don't want to print them on paper, you can save them on floppy disk or burn them on a CD and submit to tax office or planning office or whatever. And so one of the big initiatives of the Ministry of Technology is to say, we really want to submit digital files in a 2020 style, in a digital form, rather than, you submit a physical media that contains a digital file. But that's another surprising thing that, other than launch nuclear codes, you still can probably file your taxes on a floppy disk. And IRS have to accept it. I wouldn't be surprised if actually it's still the case.
Really? IRS has to accept it if you're filing on a floppy disk?
So in Japan, this government agencies have to accept it still.
Oh,
And actually,
it's Japan.
mandate, there's no other form. I'm not sure about IRS, but I know I filed in 2000. I filed my taxes on a floppy disk. I printed them on paper, but they say, for faster processing, attach a floppy disk, and that's what I did. I made a floppy disk, and I got my taxes processed faster because they don't need to type it in.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder, with floppy disks being so old, and I think no one's made floppy disks in many years so far, right?
So this guy was making them, right? So this guy started by having a lot of old floppy disks that he was just reselling, and then he finally created, as far as I understand, a small factory-like thing where he manufactured small batches of floppy disks.
So from what I read, and maybe I misread it, I only skimmed through the article, I thought the guy was recycling floppy disks. He was taking floppy disks from other places and then just recycling them.
He started with that, but he then started making some, at least contract some companies. I know, after reading this article, by the way, speaking of advertisement, I've seen an ad on Amazon, buy new tech. And one of the things, it was camcorders or whatever, and then the box of 3.5-inch floppy disks.
I wonder if anybody still makes floppy disk drives.
Yes.
Really?
So USB, yes. You can buy it's like 15 or $20 on Amazon. You can buy 3.5-inch USB floppy drive.
Do they do it with USB-C? Yes! You can have oh, no. That's not USB-C. That's just normal USB.
Yes, but that's the one I have. So how much is that?
$20.
Yeah. So
What's the quality?
the
of that
price is
thing?
very stable, right? With all the
Using
stuff like GPUs, they're expensive one day, they're cheap another day. But this floppy drive, I bought it like 3 years ago for $20, and it's still $20. There is stability in this world. No inflation, nothing.
It's
So
almost
you're saying buying floppy drives is a good store of money.
Yes, invest in floppy drives. That's my. We finish our show today with this 5
investment advice. Floppy
I'm so
drives.
curious. Do you think you could put a crypto wallet on a floppy drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You can put a
Even if you
floppy.
lose your
You can put a crypto wallet and a magnet. So, just so it feels more secure.
Actually, if you wanted to look like the coolest person in the room, you could also put a GPG key on it or something like that, like your signing key on a floppy drive, and just carry it around with you.
Suppose a company who embedded like an RFID chip into one's business card. So technically, when you give someone a business card, if they have an RFID reader, they can just scan it and have all your information.
Then hand the card
Kind of
back to you.
Similar idea.
I mean, I used to miss the functionality that some phones had, probably back in like the early 2010s when the NFC was just getting introduced, where you could like tap the phones together and you'd exchange contact information like that. I actually really miss that feature. I wish they would add that back.
Who remember IRDA?
I remember where you can send with infrared things. Yes. Yeah. Just let me send you an MP3 file, and like half an hour later, hopefully this one song. You cannot move them because they have to see each other.
Yes. But then if you go to a cafe and like you want to exchange a file, that's what you do. And going back to the like cameras that shoot on the floppy disks, right? So using RDA, you can transfer one of those images in less than a minute. I remember. Yeah.
I remember like back before phones had NFC chips, there was this app called Bump. Do you guys remember this one? Basically, it was like if you wanted to exchange contact information, which is like their key use case, you would just like you find someone else, you'd both open up the Bump app on your phones, you'd physically bump your phones together, and then it would like use GPS and the motion sensor to figure out, these are the two phones that have been bumped. Okay, let's like have their data go up to the cloud, swap over and down onto the other phones.
I remember that. Yes. Anyway, failed to find my old phone. I don't remember what was the phone. By the way, since we are in the finishing, I want you to show, coming back to the very beginning, when I was speaking about MXNet and Foundation, I was thinking about this meme over here, but I completely failed to find it when I was speaking about the Foundation. Yes, that shows the state of MXNet perfectly well. Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes, yes.
Oh my god.
Anyway, on that note, Nikita, do you want to add anything, or we can finalize?
No, we can probably wrap up. I have a last video, but again, it makes no sense without sound. So the last use of the floppy disk drives is to make music. So there is a very dedicated guy from Poland who makes a tremendous contraptions of gazillions and floppy drives and a flatbed scanners. And he can create a very realistic music. It's called Flopatron, so I recommend you guys to check it out.
Yeah, he's currently on version 3, Flopatron 3.0.
Yes.
Okay, so let's hear it.
Well, not that though.
Yes, not that. Wait, bear with me.
A little longer than a few minutes later. One eternity later.
Jesus. that's
I think we found our closing music for today.
yes. With that, Nikita, do you want to say goodbye to everyone?
Bye. It was very nice hosting the show. Thank you for the invitation, Slava.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
See you, folks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we still live, so watch what you're saying, Fox. but yes, we're no longer in the recording. Let me find... oh, we have several folks gave a like during the show. Anyway, thank you, folks. Any last thought before we part? Oh, yes, probably it's my turn to be next time. I guess, yeah, the circle have closed, so I will be the next time. Okay.
That was fun. I hope I didn't diverge too much into history. But the
okay,
story
man.
about the guy who just closing his shop in 2022 that was selling and making floppy disks blew my mind.
I mean, that was a smaller divergence than the FedEx murder.
That was about security. Come on, that was like what you call a cliffhanger, right? Or a prelude, whatever you call it.
Yeah, but I still wonder how they indeed using this for the nuclear program. I think they cannot.
They use an
upgrade it.
8-inch floppy. So this one is 5, right? I don't have a single 8. So 8 was for PDP-11. They were even bigger. I probably should get one
Even
of
older
those.
ones.
Yeah,
But
but if this one is more fresh and it's closing and no one manufactured them, that one is older.
So
The government must have their
8-inch,
own
yes.
secret stockpile of these somewhere, and a private contractor to make.
So
new
here's the
ones.
funny part, right? If any of you guys been to computer history museums, and probably you were, like here in Mountain View, they have what is that? IBM 600 or
650, right? IBM 650, or what it was.
601, I thought. Anyway, it's something that uses magnetic tape to like read its program, and it prints it output on the punch cards.
Mm-hmm.
Was those magnetic tapes? Yeah, you can still load the program.
Oh, that one that they have like the full functional one in the basement.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Now I'm just imagining like the U.S. government runs like its last floppy disk goes bad, and they have to replace it, and they're just running to the Computer History Museum to like confiscate and commandeer their floppy disk drives from the displays.
So this technology is very repairable. If anyone still have their cassette players, I no longer have. My parents have somewhere in the attic. My grandfather like tape cassette player, not a small cassette one, but the actual tapes, and it still works. Right, you need to go there, and there is like a couple of rubber bands that you need to replace, but the technology is extremely resilient. Like nothing happens because if you think about it, right, on like your phone or on your CD, right, you like on a Blu-ray, you contains like a billion bytes of information. On a magnetic tape, you have like hundreds of kilobytes, but you use like 3 millimeters of tape or like a square inch of tape to preserve like just one character. You have a lot of resilience and capacity, right?
Yeah, memory optimization has always kind of amazed me. Like, or storage optimization, disk storage. Like, I was watching a YouTube video earlier today of somebody putting together a computer, and they were like, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I could hold 4 terabytes of storage in my hand and it's the size of an M2 drive, that's just unbelievable.
Yep.
Yep.
My first PC had a hard drive of 30 megabytes, I think, and that was 40, and that was a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, with doing this self-realization how old we are, folks, let's finish the day.
Someday we'll get much older.
Yes, have a happy weekend.